The following is a pre-recorded show.
Welcome to the Weekend Real Estate Report on 105.7 The Fan. If you want the truth about credit scores, buying, and financing a home, call the show at 410-583-1057. Here's the host of the Weekend Real Estate Report, Carl Delmont.
Hey, good morning, Baltimore. Carl Delmont here, Weekend Real Estate Report. And as always, we bring in great guests. And today we have a regular guest, one of our local experts, Tonyzowd. He's with Coldwell Banker, integrityplusnetwork. And we just want to kind of talk about what's going on out there. So look, the Fed finally made the rate cuts. And as we've been saying on the show, mortgage rates are always ahead of that. So the only reason rates would improve dramatically on a Fed cut is if the Fed said something or did something that was, unexpected. And of course, that didn't happen. The big thing really isn't so much the cut, but the language afterwards. And, he pretty much was in line with what most people were expecting. So as a result, and as predicted here, we thought that rates would stay the same or maybe even increase. It was what happened. But now we're getting some economic data that's going to hopefully help rates. And actually, the next few weeks are going to be pretty important. Next Friday, we'll get the jobs report. We'll get some inflation reports. And I believe next Thursday, a company called ICE, Intercontinental Exchange, is it's a behemoth company that does things along with the mortgage financial world, and they're coming out with a major report. In that report should be some information that could be market movers when it comes to rates. And of course, the next day, the jobs report, and then following, we'll have jobless claims and inflation, some other things to look at. So right now, we just had an inflation report this week, came in pretty much in line with expectations, but they're starting to see a little bit of a boom in refinancing and in home buyer activity. So, Tony, from your perspective, are you seeing any increase in home buyer activity now that the Fed has changed course and no longer hiking?
Yeah, it's ticked up a little bit. We've continued to remain pretty strong. It's still a seller's market. I know we got a little bit more inventory. I think we're just over 2 months of inventory in the area. So it's giving buyers a little bit more opportunity out there on top of the interest rate drop, right? So it's giving them a little bit more. You're starting to see some seller concessions a little bit more. You're also seeing some home inspections, which we'd never seen before. But again, if the house is priced right and it's marketed correctly, they're moving in multiple offers within a few days.
Are you seeing any more homes come on the market that are being sold as is, or are people basically saying, you know what, I want to get top dollar, I'm going to invest, $10, $15, $30,000 to, fix my house up so that I get the best value?
From my experience, most people are doing it. They're investing in their property. And I think you need to a little bit right now because it is not that market where you can just throw anything on unless you're prepared to take a lower offer. But if you want the best for your money, it's always worth investing. And I think we've talked about it before on the show, like Coldwell Banker with the program we have with Revitalize, where it's 0% down, 0% interest to get those repairs done, to get your house in shape, to get the best price. And you don't pay that till closing. So with plans like that out there, I think these are the houses, again, the right marketing plan, the seller's doing a little bit to their property to get it ready so it's show ready, and then hitting the right price, you're still seeing that multiple offers. But there are some setting out there. I've had a couple of buyers recently get some closing help, and we actually did inspections because, they were just priced a little too high. And when I mean a little too high, like maybe 10,000, like you got to be a little bit better on your numbers. You can't just throw anything out there and hope you're going to sell it.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing. I'm sorry, as I said, that's the one thing that a lot of people don't really understand is that, sometimes pricing your house, like they may think, oh, my house is worth, $610,000 because a neighbor sold for 608 and we have more features. But sometimes pricing that 608 house at $599 might end up getting you a 615, 620.
Exactly. And it's funny. So I have recently went into a listing and the guy sold fences for a living. And he just did not understand that concept because in most sales, right, you list high because you're going to do a reduction. Mm-hmm. Real estate's not like that. You list low, to show that perception of value. So when people see that perception of value, you have a better chance. So like you said, if you want 620, we don't necessarily list at 620. We probably want to list it around 595. Mm-hmm. You bring that down, people see it, and then you get a little bit of a bidding war going, and they'll push it up to the value you want. Where if you're going to 620, you're really looking for maybe that needle in a haystack, that one guy or girl that's going to be willing to pay that. And then what comes with that? Maybe seller concessions, home inspections. So it takes all the power away from the seller.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I never really thought of it that way. But yeah, most things you look at, like, unless you're at Home Depot and it's the last fence, you're probably not getting the bidding war. um,
Yeah, exactly. And that's what he just did. He's like, I always list high and then they beat me down. That's how we do sales. And I'm like, real
mhm,
estate just isn't like that.
yeah. Well, you mentioned concessions and that nature. So, I mean, are you seeing things now where buyers, even though you said it's still a seller's market, from what I'm seeing out, just because we do business in a bunch of states overall, I'm seeing it get a little bit more closer to normalization where we are seeing some multiple offer situations and we are seeing some deals where the buyer is saying, hey, look, will you pay a half a point to buy my rate down, or will you do this, or will you do that? And the seller seems to be willing. So it's sort of a mixed bag right now from what we're seeing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you get it both ways. I think you got to look at your client and determine, you know, what works best for them. So you got to have that conversation with your buyer. Do you need that to buy the rate down, or would you rather have it to pay some of your transfer and recordation fees? And then now with NAR's new ruling coming out and the commissions are making, it's always been negotiable, right? But they're making it more public. So people are kind of questioning that more. And now
Mhm.
that's becoming some of the negotiations. I've actually had buyers we take out. So now we have to, double check because it's not listed on the MLS. So you make that call to see if there's a commission offered because a buyer has to pay a commission. That's how we get paid. And I've had buyers flat out tell me, well, if they're not offering a commission, don't show me that house because I don't have the down payment. I don't have the closing costs plus commissions. So they actually skip it. And then I've had the other scenario where they're actually taking now and they're saying, okay, well, make it part of your offer and we'll look at it. So they're not even giving you a number. And
Mhm.
again, buyers are like, I don't want to get in this and be in a bidding war and find out that I'm not getting that. And I've had them phase away from that too. So I think it's hurting the sellers because it's making your buyer pool smaller when you don't have that offer.
Mhm.
And now that's becoming more part of the negotiations.
I mean, we've only had roughly 2 months of this new rule, so let's talk about that a little bit. The buyer rule, can you expand a little bit about what you were just saying there?
Yeah. So basically, I mean, again, so Maryland we were so far ahead of everybody else with all this. Like a lot of the rule changes in from looking at them didn't really hit us. You've always had to have buyer agency signed. Now they are auditing us to make sure it's signed. So you better have it signed before you go out and show. So that was one of the big hurdles. The other one, I know the MLS used to make the seller put a commission in to have the house listed there, but it was $1. So it went from $1 to zero. Like not a big change again. And then the biggest thing is honestly, they took the commissions off the MLS. So now we have to call the other agents and get verification that they're offering it because a buyer wants to know that up front, right? He wants to know what he's stepping into besides, okay, well, I've already put away, 3% for my transfer and recordation fees, which is roughly what it is. I've already put away, my 3.5% or 5% down or 20, whatever it may be to get my loan. How much do I have to pay now the buyer's agent? Because it's not coming from that side. And again, we
Mhm.
talked about this before. I think it's short-sighted because most sellers will be buyers. And most sellers move up. They don't move down, especially the way prices are going. So it's like, you're just pushing money around. So I think it really hurts the buyer pool for the seller to take that completely away because you are limiting what buyers can actually afford to buy your house.
Yeah, it makes sense. I was at a funeral service the other day, and a couple of people there were in a home building business, and we were talking, and some of the things they were saying to me is like, hey, I've got a 3% mortgage rate. Why would I want to, trade that in for another? So basically, what he did was he owned some other properties. Because he's like in his, I guess, late 60s. He moved into one of his units with his wife, and he's renting his main house to his kids. Tax wise, I'm not sure what that does. I mean, it probably creates a whole bunch of issues with the capital gains and everything else, but he just didn't want to get rid of that rate. But the other builder was telling me the one thing they're seeing is that they're hoping more first time buyers will come in, but they're seeing some people who are selling their home and trying to move down. And we were talking about inventory, and I said, yeah, what happens when you see, these are some of the trends we're seeing. You might see a senior who sells their house and they buy another house. And then what happens is it's a net sum, right? Because they sold a property, bought a property, it didn't really help inventory. But the seniors who are maybe moving into assisted living or 55 plus or in with their kids, now that's creating some inventory because you're selling one house, but you're not taking up the other house. So there was some interesting stuff there. And the other trend we were talking about, and they were saying this, they're starting to get people who were telling them, prospective home buyers, for the builder, like, hey, can you make the garage a little bit bigger? And can you only make it a one-car garage? We want to convert the other part into an in-law suite. So you're starting to see this multi-generational housing thing start to take off just because of the cost with taxes, utilities, everything else. Are you seeing some of that too, where people are trying to, parents and adult kids are buying a house together?
Yeah, I haven't seen a huge uptick in it, but I can see that coming just with the cost of everything, right? Everything from groceries to mortgage. I do see where, and I have this conversation with a lot of clients, like, okay, so you have this great rate, but maybe you outgrew that house and we want to move on. Well, if you can turn that into an investment, like you were saying, you're really picking up a 2-for-1, right? Like you're buying your investment property and you're getting into the larger home. And I look at everything as an investment. So even it's my primary home, it's a long-term investment. So, maybe when I retire, I'm going to downsize, or if you got to pull those reverse mortgages to help you keep living, whatever, to me, that's a larger investment. So we have those conversations because if you got that low interest rate and you want to keep that house, that's definitely something you could do, turn it into a rental. And now we got an investment property, and then you move on to your other. If not, then you sell. And with the interest rates starting to drop like they are, I do see more and more people like, okay, now we can afford a little bit more, right? Because I think that's what the interest rates did. It took the affordability away from the house more than anything.
Correct. Yeah. Rising rates. And then of course, rising costs, everywhere we're going. So, I've noticed, Maryland divides the state into thirds, and every 3 years, they review your assessment for your property taxes. And, ours just went up a little bit, not a ton, but, it was kind of nice being fairly low for a while. And that just adds to it. And of course, you look at homeowners insurance, car insurance, umbrella policies, all those things have gone up. Then you look at electricity and cost of food, like you said. I mean, it is getting tough. So it's nice to see inflation coming down, but we have to remember that even though this 2.2% reading that just came out this week, why that's welcome news, because it's really close to the Fed's mandate, or not mandate, but their goal. The flip side of that is, it's 2.2% since last year. So, or last month, depending on which reading you're looking at. But, we've gone up each time. So if you had money in a CD and you made 12% 1 year, and then you only made 9% the second year, and then 7% the second year, and now you're making 2.2, you're making 2.2 on top of all those other gains. So if that makes sense visually, that's kind of the same that's going on with the cost of goods with everything. Like, oh, great, costs are coming down. Yeah, but coming down from highs, right? I mean, eggs cost what, $1.20 5 years ago, and now they're what, $4 or $5 a dozen. I mean, it's, you look at all those things. I just mentioned eggs because that's one of the top of the inflation chain. But yeah, so look at all those things. Hey, we're talking with Tony Zowd. He's with Coldwell Banker, Integrity Plus Network, longtime supporter of the show, guest on the show. If you're looking to either sell, purchase, just have questions regarding your property, Tony, tell people to reach out to you.
Sure. So the easiest way to reach out to me, you can call me on my cell phone at 443-610-9462, or just reach out to our website. You can meet me and the whole team at theintegrityplusnetwork.com.
Excellent. All right. And if you're listening and you're hungry, you got to check out our friends at Cooper's. Cooper's with a K, Koopers. Cooper's is been around for about 22 years. Original location right there in Fells Point on 10th Street, with their sister restaurant adjacent to it called Cilantro, where soccer is religion, authentic Irish cuisine. Both restaurants serve breakfast and, of course, are open 7 days a week. Great brunch specials. And, of course, their location in Timonium, Cooper's North. Same great menu, same great best burger in Maryland. And, of course, the gumbo that Guy Fieri raves about. And they have an amazing brunch specials as well. So check them out. If you do, tell me heard it here on the radio. They'll appreciate that. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Tony Zowd from Integrity Plus Network. So if you're looking for a realtor, give Tony a call. Back in a couple.
The Weekend Real Estate Report will be right back on 105.7 The Fan.
You're listening to a pre-recorded show.
You're listening to the Weekend Real Estate Report on 105.7 The Fan.
You do a great job here giving the audience quite a bit of information. For a lot of guys like me, I'm sure a lot of females have certainly been enlightened and informed to help their life a little bit better. So keep up the good work.
Once again, Carl Delmont.
Hey, if you want to make a great first impression, look no further than our friends at Flowers and Fancies. For over 40 years, making great first impressions for their clients. And listen, if you need flowers for any reason, something you just want to tell someone you're thinking about them, you love them, or maybe it's something more somber, such as a funeral or someone's in the hospital, whatever the case may be, they can help you out. What about weddings? Yeah, they can help you there too. They have a whole team that can work with you. And trust me, they've been doing it for a lot of people's weddings for years. With over 300 fresh flowers flown in daily, these guys do such an amazing job. Give them a like on social media. And of course, if you want to make a purchase, you can always call them or reach out and email. Tell me here on the radio. They'll appreciate that. Flowers and Fancies. All right, we are back with Tony Zowd, and Tony, Tony's an expert realtor, been doing this a long time, and he just doesn't do just residential. He also does commercial, lots, all kinds of other things, rentals. He can help you with a lot of stuff, and he comes from, and I think this is an important part, Tony. You come from a family that's been well versed in the remodeling and home improvement trade. So I know. Personally, taking my daughter out, was looking at some properties with you, and you're pointing, oh yeah, this could be this could be that. I would look forward to, this could be a sign of this. I mean, things I wouldn't even think about. So it's kind of cool. You bring a little bit of extra, panache when it comes to hiring a realtor. I don't know if you want to jump into that a little bit.
It definitely helped me growing up. So I grew up doing construction, like you said, and building. Actually did it for about 20 years. My first probably 10 years in real estate. I slung a hammer during the day and then sold real estate at night. And what it helps me with, and I train my team the same way, is we're not just door openers. I'm not just going to open a door and like, hey, look at the pretty granite, look at the stainless steel. Like, we're going to look in there and, hey, the roof's about this old or the windows are about this old. Well, let's see what kind of plumbing you have. Is it polybutylene or copper? I'm looking in closets and the ceilings and downstairs for any kind of water intrusion or mold. Like, I want to point all this stuff out before you ever get to the home inspection. It's not a home inspection. I'm not a home inspector, full disclosure. Yeah. But I want to show you everything I can. So when you make an informed decision and we get to the home inspection, you're not walking in going, oh, I didn't know that was that type of pipe or that there was mold here, that we've already got an advanced look on that. And, I always tell them, look, I'm not going to tear the house apart. Like, I could go in any house and pick out every nail pop.
Yep.
I'm also going to show you the good stuff. Like, oh, we could add a door here and build a wall for $1,500 and you got another bedroom. Like, so I try to show them both ends so they're making an informed decision before they ever get to that point. Again, we don't want to be door knockers or door openers. I want to give the client more.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, look, you could buy a brand new house, and one, you should still get an inspection, but two, you're probably going to find nail pops. I mean, it's just things happen, right? That's not neglect. That's just living. Just like when we get older, we get wrinkles, right? And sometimes it hurt, our knees hurt. We get out of bed. I mean, it's just a sign of normal aging, and everything else doesn't mean that it was neglect. But and I think that's something important too. When people, especially first-time buyers, because this is interesting. First-time buyers, who's their source of reference? Their parents, right? Or maybe older siblings. Well, if they bought a house 3 years ago, their experience is going to be vastly different than today, but they're going to trust that person's opinion. Like, oh yeah, well, I waived the inspection and I got this rate and I got that. That's not today's world. Is that a big hurdle? I know sometimes for us on the lending side it is, but on the realtor side, have you seen that?
Oh yeah, when they bring parents or siblings in, especially if they bought they bought a house in the past or they have any kind of construction background, because they're there. In all honesty, I think they're trying to protect, but I think sometimes they overprotect. So it definitely becomes a hurdle. But again, I think part of it's a trust issue. So when they go and they meet me for the first time or another agent, it's like they don't know you. So how much do they really trust you? And as you go through these houses and you can show them like, hey, I'm not just pushing this because it has a pretty granite countertop or it's a brand new flip. Like, we're looking at things. That builds trust. So what I tend to see is after showing a few homes, all that kind of calms down and they're like, okay, we all are on the same page. We're a team here, me, the parent and the kid buying or whatever it may be. So we all come together and then it's just them being informed and that builds the trust. And then most of that goes away.
That makes sense. Anything that's surprising you right now and today, like the market as of today, not like in the last month or two, but just as things are morphing, we have this new, like we said, buyer rules. We have rates that are looking a little bit more opportunistic. Home buying sentiments up. We're starting to see an activity. Inventory is improving somewhat. What are some things, like if you just had a top of mind that it's changing right now, maybe for the best, maybe not?
I mean, the biggest thing I think you got to go to right now in our industry is the NAR settlement. Like that's the biggest hurdle that we've had in agents, because a lot of it just false information from even politicians putting stuff out on the news that's going to save all this money and make all these changes, and it's really not. So I think that's our biggest hurdle. And then I know like Maryland, like in October, we always get new laws. So there's some new rental laws that come in. Maryland come up with the right of first refusal for the whole state. So you have to give the tenant the right to purchase before, you sell the property. So that's a little bit different. They've also limited to 2 months instead of 3 months up front. So like if you get security deposit in the first month's rent, you're capped off there. You can't do a second month security deposit. And then one of the bigger ones, this is because I just went through a landlord class. I do property management as well. They now want you to do like 4.5% in interest for the security deposit, which is a huge hike. I think it was like 1.4 or 1.5, and you can't get that anywhere. So as a landlord, you're going to be paying them to hold a little bit of money. That's probably my biggest.
Are you seeing any seller takebacks or any other kind of creative things we've seen in the past, or is that not necessary now?
Nah, I haven't really seen anything like that. I mean, I know one of the things that I mean, this is kind of off of what it's doing, but like, so, I work pretty much between the Baltimore-Washington corridor. I do a little bit in PA, and I'm a part of the Howard County Association of Realtors. I know the associations are looking to do more value for agents, which I think is nice. Like HCAR froze our dues, so they didn't raise, which they typically have to, go up. So they're trying to help with that affordability, which you were talking about earlier. And just kind of throw that out here, part of HCAR, they also added the forewarn process. So I have a lot of girls on our team, and they go out and meet strangers and people they've never met before. Well, forewarn, you can put the people's name or phone number in, and it will pull all their statistics, like if they've had any kind of, like if they're been charged with any major crimes or anything, so who you're going to meet for, and that's all part of HCAR fees right now. So that's kind of the big thing that I'm seeing. Like the associations are trying to do more to show value. Because us as realtors, I think the biggest hurdle we've had with consumers is it's very easy to get into this business. It's very hard to stay in it, but it's very easy to get in. And then for so long, they don't realize how you get paid. I've actually had buyers, thought that I was getting paid by the hour and gas money for showing them houses. And I was like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like we got to close to actually get paid. So us showing value, I think, is one of the biggest hurdles.
Yeah, I think it's tough because, as you said before, there's a bit of a separation from a normal sales process versus a house. And just for listeners now, the first time we talked about someone who sold fences and they would start the price off high and just negotiate down, whereas real estate, you typically should start low and negotiate up. It's a little bit of a different concept. But, also for first-time home buyers, they don't fully understand all the things that go along with it. And like I had someone who's done business with us a few years, and they haven't done a loan with us in probably, 12, but they reached out to me and they're like, yeah, back in the day, like I just dealt with the loan officer and the processor. Now I dealt with like 5 different people. It was kind of weird. And I had to explain, I said, yeah, well, all these government rules that went into effect, it creates so many checks and balances along the way. You need multiple people to make sure, like you hate to say it, but like, okay, the processor's doing this, checking on the junior processor, the loan officer assistant's looking at these things, the underwriter's looking at things, then you have compliance looking at things. You have to make sure everything's done correctly or that loan's not saleable, and, puts, the lender and everyone else at risk. Then you bring in title companies, home inspectors, appraisers, all those other outside factors. There's a lot that goes in with it. People just think they call up, give you information, and, their credit's good, and you just hand them a check. It doesn't work that way. There's so much goes behind the scenes. But after that quick, explanation, he understood it. But, the initial process, he just was comparing something from like 15 years ago to today. And I told him, I said, man, even in the last 4 years, things have changed. It's from what it was back then. So a little bit crazy, but
you need a good team, like from the get-go. Like, and the biggest thing I've seen, and this is on us as agents, is a lot of times people will call you up to go see a house or something, and you'll jump and run, and they'll jump, run in the car, go show the house. What really needs to happen, and then if I was a consumer, I would highly recommend this. If you call any agent, like ask for a consultation, like sit down, go through what agency means, get in depth what you're looking for as a house so they understand they can help you better. and then just walk through the home buying process, because instead of you being pushed through and just window shopping, you'll actually have an understanding of it, which makes you way more comfortable through that process. And you'll understand all the steps instead of going through and being nervous and thinking something's missed. I highly believe that the consultation should be the start.
Yeah, I always tell people when you're hiring a lender and you're hiring a realtor, you should treat it like a job interview, right? Figure out what it is you want. And you look, and understand too that since this is your expertise, your wants may be unreasonable, but figure out what do you want, and then talk to people and find out what they can do. Because there's some people out there who will tell you everything you want to hear just to get the business, and then it's a bad experience. But going back to what I was saying too about the client that hadn't done a loan with us in 15 years, the other interesting thing was he was unrepresented, and it was difficult because you're dealing with the realtor on one end. He didn't really know what was going on. And we still got the loan done within 3 weeks time, not 4 weeks and everything else. We got it done and quickly, ahead of schedule, even with all those hurdles. So, I mean, to your point about a good team, it's, we've got an experienced team, and I think, we do a really good job on a lot of stuff there. So that being said, we are looking to add, if you're a loan officer or a team or a branch and you're looking for a better opportunity, we would love to talk to you in confidence. If you're a realtor and you've got a loan officer you like, but maybe you're not really crazy about the lender they work for, hey, introduce us. You'll get the loan officer you like and a lender you're going to love. So if interested, you can reach out in confidence to Jay at Freedmont. Actually, it's Jay Delmont, letter J Delmont, no space or anything else, at Freedmont.com. Or you can just call 800-955-8508, ask for Jay. He'll talk to you in confidence and see if it's a good fit. We're pretty particular on who we're looking for, but you never know. Might as well ask. That being said, Tony, with a few minutes we have left in this segment, what's some just quick elevator speech anyone thinking of buying or selling?
So if anybody's thinking about buying or selling, definitely reach out to us. The easiest way to reach us, again, is 443-610-9462. Or you can go straight to our website, integrityplusnetwork.com. So you'll look at our website. So one of the best things about us, besides having a home building background to help not just be a door opener, we have a plan for everything. So as we go through phases of negotiations through your contract as a seller, we'll have a full marketing plan for you. We leave no stone unturned. We market you in over 725 websites internationally. So we're an international company. We're going to bring people from everywhere. And being here between Baltimore and Washington, you have a lot of government and military. So that's a huge resource. But we take care of everything. We take all the stress off your hands. We list it, no stones unturned, and we're going to get you the best price.
Makes sense. And that's what you're looking for. Again, if anyone's interested in finding a great realtor, I got it right here for you. Tony, tell them how to reach you.
Again, it's 443-610-9462, or just go to our website, meet the whole team at integrityplusnetwork.com. And we have people on our team, just FYI, that speak English, French, Ugandan, Spanish, Danish, and Egyptian. So we got you pretty much covered if you need it.
All right, perfect. Well, Tony, listen, as we discussed, this is our final show here. We move into a podcast eventually, but I wanted to appreciate you being our last guest. Last, by no means least, important guest. You've been not only a supporter of the show as a sponsor, but also, a great realtor and referral source. So we thank you for all that. And for listeners, we'll be back on at another venue, but down the road. And Tony, I'm sure will be one of our guests on there as well. So just wanted to thank you for being a part of our final show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I know you've been doing this for a long time, but we met about 5 years ago, and back when we actually did it in studio. And it's been a blast. I've always learned a lot from the show. I was a fan before I was ever on it. So it's going to be great. I look forward to the podcast.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hey, real quick, if you're thinking of a great restaurant, check out our friends at Black Olive right there in Fells Point. A little known, probably well known, but some people don't know about it. But I'll tell you what, an amazing wine selection. They have a sommelier straight from France. I'm telling you, he grew up on a vineyard. He knows everything about wines. Their wine tasting dinners are amazing. They pair their great food with the wines and give you an education about all that. The food is amazing. They import so many products from Greece. I had this thing called Oysters Onassis, which is their take on oysters Rockefeller, and it had spinach imported from Greece. You could taste the difference. It was amazing. The sea scallops are amazing. The lamb, everything. It's such a great place. Check out the Black Olive in Fells Point. Yeah, I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed. Great food, great service, great wine selection, and just overall great experience. You'll walk away saying, when can we go back? I promise you that. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, our final segment of our final show. Please stay with us.
The Weekend Real Estate Report will be right back on 105.7 The Fan.